Hi there, Serial Trader here. Let's check back in with WEED, WEED. That's Canopy Growth Corporation. All right, so I have been working this triangle wave 4 interpretation, and so far it's cooperating with that outlook. And we went up nicely, and then we just had this little sideways action, although I'll point out we remained at or above the T line throughout that. So there were certainly no red flags to get out of any long positions. And now we've actually had a nice gap up, and this 31.46 resistance level, I want to see that break, as that would be kind of a good short-term confirmation of further upside continuation. And not only did we break that level today, but we gapped right through it. And actually, just let me check here, didn't even trade as low as 31.46. So that former resistance so far hasn't even now been tested as support at this point. Which, it certainly could be in subsequent trading days, but fairly strong day. Now, certainly a rejection from the absolute highs of the day, although nothing concerning. Often when you have a gap up like that, some people sell into that and in the hopes of buying in lower, perhaps, after such a move. And there's no right or wrong way of doing it. There's only your way. Now, in this case, I'm still long with my positions, and this is certainly positive to see a gap up above resistance. Obviously well above the T-line. But that being said, I wouldn't want to see it... well, at this point, I wouldn't want to see it go below the T-line, and the T-line will, of course, start advancing as the days catch up here. But you might want to have if you're more short-term oriented, have a trailing stop here. Probably the low of today, so 31.71. Really, if this is going to have some immediate juice here, that should likely hold. So that might be a good idea for a real short-term oriented stop. And just one thing I'll point out, so we have this A down, B up, C down, D up, E down, as I've labeled it, and that certainly follows all the criteria for a contracting triangle. But let me just give you some food for thought. So what if I'm wrong? No, not terribly wrong, but just wrong on the nuance of this triangle. And what if something more like this is going on, and this, okay, not that it's done yet necessarily, but let's say this is actually just a larger D wave, a more complex D wave, right? So let me just get this out. And we actually have, an ABC up, something like that. ABC up for D, and then we'll have one more three-wave type decline in a wave E, right? And well, let me just kind of get that going. So something along these lines, would that be acceptable? Of course it would, and that could be the case. And the bottom line is we don't know yet, but it's possible. So D may have been a more complex three-wave advance, and this would still be a nice three-wave advance so far. And then you could have a three-wave decline for E, and obviously you'd have to respect the termination point of C for that to be valid, which we're quite far away from. And that would be 23.88. Now listen, I'm not saying this is happening or going to happen. In fact, let me just get rid of this. I'm just showing you an alternate scenario so that you're not shocked if it does happen. Don't feel betrayed just because a particular interpretation was incorrect. It doesn't mean your overall outlook for this being a large degree, wave 4 triangle with, further upside to new highs once complete. It doesn't negate that. It just means short term, you just didn't have it right, if that were to happen. Now, I am currently still favoring this, okay? This interpretation, where we do have our wave E in place to complete wave 4. And now we're heading up in, possibly our first impulse wave, of this next 5-wave advance for wave 5 that we'll be expecting. And certainly a gap up is typically a sign of strength, but we'll have to see. And volume's increasing here. I mean, this volume is higher than, many prior volume days, let's put it that way. It's not the highest volume we've ever had or anything, but relative to the last oh, I don't know, 10 or so trading sessions. This is a high volume day with a gap up and positive trading. So that's significant. So, still cautiously leaning on this triangle being complete and that we're heading up to new highs. Not straight up, of course. But just consider also, okay, so I've given you kind of a technical chart pattern, assessment of this. And, well, we won't worry about this for now, the MACD and RSI. I'm not too concerned about that right now. But also something on the fundamental front. Now, remember, I don't make any trading decisions based off of fundamentals, but I'm still aware of them and I still keep tabs on them because, you should know as much as possible. Now, it was announced that Canopy Growth Corporation will be uplisting its U.S. ticker symbol to be traded on the New York Stock Exchange, and that will be sometime near the end of the month. And that could be a possible reason why this bullish action is really kicking off here, potentially. Now, currently, Canopy Growth Corporation, so it's listed as weed in Canada on the TSX, but in the US, it's just on the OTC markets listed as TWMJF. So it'll be uplisting to a new ticker symbol in the US, CGC, so for Canopy Growth Corporation, and it'll be on the NYSE exchange, okay? Now, you could definitely see how maybe there's certain funds or institutions that aren't even allowed to buy things that are on the OTC markets, or maybe there's only certain criteria that they can, that they have to meet to buy certain things. So perhaps this will, start an inflow from places that were not formally allowed to buy it. So that's a potential bullish catalyst, fundamentally. And I'll just remind you, if you were watching Cron, when it became uplisted to the NASDAQ in the US, it certainly traded quite positively during and after that. So perhaps we can expect the same thing with Canopy Growth here. We shall see. But I think just with the current technicals looking quite good, and then that kind of fundamental catalyst in the background, still feeling pretty good about the long-term upside here. All right, just thought I'd give you a little update. Serial Trader signing off.